Okay, good morning. It's 10 o'clock. So for the record, my name is Brennan Garltz, Chair of the EFCC, and I'm calling this meeting of March 3rd, 2026 to order. Because we're in a hybrid environment here, I'm going to have a roll call for EFCC members, some of which there's a bug going around, and so we're in a hybrid environment at this time. Catherine Van Netta.
Present.
Thank you. John Davis.
Present.
Eric Cramgis.
Present.
And Bobby Corey.
Present.
Good. Ex officio member Heath Curtis from the Board of Forestry.
Present.
Thank you. Because this is virtual, I'm going to check in the room to make sure if there are any attendees that don't have a name in the virtual environment, and we need to confirm who they are for this public meeting.
Nobody on the screen. We just have Bobby, committee member in the room, along with your two staff and the ODF support person, and then Chad Washington.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. For those in attendance here, if someone from the public would like to comment, you can do so during agenda item number 12, which is the public comment period. I will give fair warning as we enter that for some instructions. Meeting materials were emailed to the committee members prior to the meeting, and all meeting materials from this meeting will be on the Board of Forestry website under committees and EFCC. And those will get posted as soon as possible after we collect any additional information from the meeting. Excuse me. When speaking in the room, please identify yourself for the record. All right, moving on to agenda item number 2, approval of the minutes of January 6th, our 2026 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the email minutes as the minutes as they were emailed?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 6th, 2026 EFCC meeting.
Thank you, Bobby. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second. John.
Thank you, John. All those in favor, please reply with aye.
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 Aye. All right. The motion carries. Agenda item number 3, harvest tax allocation for the FY27 district budgets. At our January meeting, the committee made several important decisions related to this topic and intentionally left one decision for today: the allocation methodology for the FY25 calendar year tax harvest tax revenue to be distributed for the FY27 budgets. So just as a reminder, ORS 477.445 requires that this committee to oversee the distributions of the funds from the Oregon Forest Land Protection Fund, and prior to the beginning of each fiscal year, to distribute payments in their entirety as directed by the fiscal year budgets of the forest protection districts. We deferred the harvest tax allocation methodology decision until today because members had several questions and we wanted to gather more information and explore if there were other proxies for distributing those funds. As a reminder, this decision before us today is an interim decision only. It's limited to FY27 budgets and will not impact future harvest tax allocations to districts. That'll be dealt with in a future decision by the committee. Since the January meeting, Eric Francis and I have participated on one of the work groups this committee has established, and to help us develop longer term concepts that can inform the committee. Ultimately, as we worked through this particular topic for the long term, we asked for several different data points and to determine what is and is not an appropriate proxy for distributing harvest tax. And frankly, for the FY27 interim decision, we've discovered that readily available data that provides harvest volumes by district is unreliable for the purposes of this decision. And there are really no other suitable proxies on harvest activity available for us at this time. That's not to say that they won't be available for future decisions from the committee, but at this time, they're very limited. So we need to come to a decision for the FY27 budgets today. Before we open it up for any other questions or discussion, I'll end that it's my opinion that acres is our best proxy for this decision today, and that we keep our deliberations around that. Any questions from committee members or discussions on this? Sorry, didn't see your hand up there, Eric. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Gerald. So, doing a deep dive, I'd mirror your sentiment there that in lieu of having viable, defensible data available to us, it makes it difficult to make a recommendation on that, on an alternative. What I would consider is I'd like to move that for the FY27 budgets only. The committee allocate the available harvest tax dollars from calendar year 25 proportionately to each district, consistent with protected forest land acres within the district.
Thank you, Eric. We have a motion on the table. Any discussion on that motion? Okay. Hearing none, is there a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second by Bobby. I believe the motion is quite clear. Unless there's a need to repeat it, I'll ask for a vote for those in the room. All those in favor of the motion as presented, reply with aye.
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 Okay, I heard an aye from everyone. So the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on to agenda item number 4, a weather update. Can we, someone from ODF, hi TZA, thank you. Can you give us a weather synopsis and a forecast for the upcoming season?
Good morning. Be happy to try to make it as quick as I can so you guys can get through the rest of your meeting. So I'm just sharing my screen right now, and hopefully you can see that.
Yep, I can see it on my computer screen.
All right, so we're just going to set the stage, this early in the season, very early March. All we can really do is kind of look back over the winter and see what happened to us and what the situation is now, and have a glimpse into the future a little bit. One of the best glimpses that we have is from Pete Parsons, our own ODF smoke management meteorologist who produces a seasonal forecast every couple of months. And I've got some highlights from his recent February forecast. And then we're going to take a look at some of the NOAA Climate Prediction Center forecasts. And we'll look at the 6 to 10 day to get us through some of March here. And there's a little extra goodie there that I'm hoping might be encouraging. And then we'll look at March. And then far out in fantasy land, we'll look at the seasonals, pretty much what you would expect, but going through toward August. And then we'll take a quick look at the national significant fire potential and then summarize what's happening. So just over the past few months from November through January, we've had some of the warmest temperatures that we've ever experienced in much of the West. And for Oregon, it's been about 7 degrees Fahrenheit above average. And we're at the warmest in the 131 years of record keeping that we've got in this graphic. So no surprise there. And just taking another quick zoom into Oregon, we've got above normal temperatures since October 1st. This goes through February 28th of this year. And then despite atmospheric rivers, we've seen them come through, a lot of moisture. We still have a less than normal precipitation on the west side of the Cascades and through the Cascades and even out to the coast. So definitely below normal precipitation for this winter. This is a bit of a trigger warning here. For all intents and purposes, the last couple of months, we've all been monitoring the snow situation and the snow drought. And this is a quick update on that for March 2nd, just yesterday. So we're still far below the median of what we should be. And I wanted to draw your attention to February 23rd, which is the little graphic in the middle. And you can see there's a nice blue swath there for the basins along the coast and the north coast of Oregon. And so they did get a little bit of snow there. And there was no data available on the capture from yesterday. So just letting you know that, we've had some activity in the snow, but still far below what we should be. This is I think a better way to look at it for me is looking at the chart of snow water equivalent in the state of Oregon for all snow stations. And what this shows is from October 1st through September, the whole water year, it shows you the amount of snow that we've had over time. And in this case, we're looking at the climate normal of 1991 through 2020. And the green area around this chart here shows the average. And there's an X marks the spot in the middle for the peak, which happens around April 1st. And what I've got drawn on here is this year's line in black, and it stops at March 2 of 2026. So that's yesterday. It had a blip and no data from March 1st. And then it shows you 2018, which is the pink line, and 2025. In 2018, I bring it up because Pete Parsons uses that as one of his what he calls analog years to look at what other years in the recent past kind of match this conditions that we have this year. And so I wanted you to see 2018 was below average for that year. And look at the difference for where we are right now with the black line. But I also wanted to perhaps be encouraging here. Looking at 2025, you remember last year we had pretty good snowpack in the winter, but then we had some rain on snow events in January and so forth that melted out some of the snow. But then we had more snow in the later part of winter in through end of February into March and a little bit into April. And you can see right to the left of that peak, there was an uptick in that snow water equivalent for 2025. So just something a little encouraging there. We're at the lowest in the 30-year climate normal period right now. 2025 had some recovery of snowpack in February and March. And then 2018, we'll take a closer look at 2018 as we go through. So just taking a quick glance at the snow depth, I just wanted to draw your attention because we did have that snow and a lot of precipitation come through in late February, such that the northern part of the Coast Range had some snow. And that's the graphic on the left. And there's other areas where we had a good amount of snow come through, including southern Oregon along the California border, and then up above Portland there. And just yesterday, when I captured this snow depth map, you can already see that there has been considerable melt, even from that little bit of snow that we were trying to cling on to at the end of February. So just letting you know that what little we did get, it's able to be melted out pretty quickly. Switch gears here and just take a quick look at the drought check. This has been growing over the past couple of months due to our lack of precipitation you saw earlier in the slides, and just comparing it to 2018, pretty similar to 2018, except there was a lot more in Southeast Oregon and Southern Oregon that had drought impacts. Looking forward a couple of months, the NOAA is showing that it's the drought that occurs in Oregon right now is likely to persist, and for much of the West. And I wanted to show you that just a couple of weeks ago, February 19th, the forecast was that drought removal would be the case for Oregon. And now, based on an adjustment, it looks like they're not very encouraging on precipitation coming enough to bring us out of that condition. So what's coming down the pike here, and this helps us understand Pete Parsons' forecasts for the next 3 months, is the El Nino Southern Oscillation. You guys hear about this every year. So we're expecting ENSO neutral to start forming about now, February through April, and they're showing increasing chances of El Nino conditions starting through the summer. And as you can see on the right side of the screen, the jet stream is the big arrow, the orange arrow on the left globe and the blue arrow on the right globe. And it's really kind of the effects of El Nino oscillations or changes in ocean temperature at the equator affect us in the winter time, but we can see there is potential for warmer and drier conditions. And given the early onset of El Nino, that may mean warmer and drier conditions for us, even starting earlier than winter. So Pete Parsons, our smoke management meteorologist, uses the El Nino oscillation and other climate atmosphere interactions to check back in time and find years that might be similar to what we're experiencing now. And the way to read this chart, this slide, is you go from March, April to May, and it's temperatures on the left and precipits on the right. And just your eye automatically goes to April. And so there's substantial variability from month to month, but generally warmer and drier in March and warmer and drier in May. But April looks like it might have a chance to cool us off a little bit, get some more precip in here. And Pete Parsons noted that in 2018, there was late February snow in Western valleys, but it was forecasted for February here, but we didn't see the snow down in the valleys. It was about 1,000 feet and above in elevation where that snow was happening over in late February this year. But there were freezing temperatures in April, and if we can get that precipitation with it, hopefully not in the form of ice, but maybe we can get a little bit of snow in with that. So we're looking forward to that and not looking forward to the May warm up. I just wanted to illustrate what happened in 2018 as a companion to Pete's analysis. In 2018, ODF had 76,000 acres burned. It was about our seventh highest acres burned year in 3 decades. And he has other years that he looked at, but that's the one that's kind of closer to mine. And so you can see on the chart, we've got 3 decades here. This is the usual 3-decade split. And you can see 2018 I've highlighted, and definitely not as bad as 2020, 21, and 24, but not one of the worst years we've had. And you may remember some of the fires that were notable during that year, the Klondike down near California border, the Graham fire, South Valley Road and the substation. Remember, that was the wheat fields fire up outside of the Dalles area. So just to give a little bit more context on, well, what else is important about 2018 that we can remember? So we'll look forward now. Usually I show a temperature and a precipitation outlook. This is the 6 to 10 day, and you can see there's an above normal temperature signal for March 7th through 11th, and a near normal precipitation signal for that same time period. But just last night, I was looking around at agweather.com. Eric Snodgrass and his crew, just incredibly rich weather forecasts. I learned about that from Chris Klein. And they show the weather models and the forecasts of the different models. And I wanted to just draw your attention to this because starting really tomorrow, we're going to see some system move through, and it's got some precipitation with it. And it looks like it might have a little bit of that snow that we need with it. Not a lot, but this is one model's forecast of what we might see. So this would be definitely welcome. And then looking through the month of March, the rest of the month of March, southern half of the state, increased temperatures, and then the precip, just not a real strong signal for most of the state, except for below normal for the southern part. And these are the usuals, but these are way out in fantasy land. They're available on the Climate Prediction Center website, but you can just see the trend above normal temperatures and well below normal precipitation, going all the way from April through August. And these will change every few days. The National Significant Fire Potential Outlook shows no potential for large significant fires in the Pacific Northwest. But you can see the other parts of the United States are starting to light up as we go through time. March is the big map. April, May, and June are the other smaller maps as we go through the season. So in summary, we've had these record high temperatures over winter, record low snowpack, and a low confidence of recovery of snowpack. Pete Parsons' forecast shows variability, potentially cooler and wetter in April would be nice, but warmer and drier in May. 2025 had a little bit of snow recovery in March, and 2018 had freezing temperatures with precips in April. So on average, Oregon sees about 9 snowy days during March, about 4.8 inches of snowfall. So winter has a diminishing chance. But again, if May warmer temperatures pan out, that's going to mean a faster snow melt. And then that El Nino is on our heels right now. There's going to be a time lag in its influence on Pacific Northwest weather, but El Nino could enhance warmer and drier conditions. And with that, thank you for your time and appreciate it.
Thank you very much, TZA. Any questions from committee members for her? No doubt it seems to be difficult to draw an analog year from the conditions we currently face. 2018 being our best. I wasn't born in 1964 or the other 60 whatever, and obviously conditions have on the ground in our forest environment have changed a lot since then too. So sounds like 18 is our best analog year. Thank you. Okay, hearing no questions, Seeing no raised hands, let's move on to agenda item number 5. The Oregon Forest Land Protection Fund FY 25 ending balance. Ms. Hobbs, can you please give us a financial report?
Good morning. I'm Lorna Hobbs, EFCC Finance Coordinator. My first report today is the Oregon Forest Land Protection Fund's ending balance for fiscal year 2025. Beginning balance on July 1st, 2024 was $10,811,138. Total assessment revenue received was $9,212,781. Harvest tax revenues totaled $1,885,682. Interest received was $308,742. And then there were some monies that were owed back to the fund as a result of reconciliations for previous fiscal years. And those totaled $1,125,225. So total revenue received for FY25 was $11,407,205. And adding in the money from the reconciliations, total revenue was $12,532,430. Moving on to expenditures for FY25. The first two items, number 1 and 2, are monies that were owed back to the large fire fund as a result of fiscal year reconciliations for previous fiscal year reconciliations. And those totaled $593,992. And item number 3 was the FY25 payroll and operating expenses, and those actually equaled $167,032. $165,000 was transferred out of the fund, but it wasn't processed until after July 1 of 2025, the start of the FY26 fiscal year. So that is reflected on my next FY26 report. And in addition, I still need to make an additional transfer for the remaining $2,032. Item number 4 under expenditures is $3 million that was transferred for fire season 2024 severity costs. Under the 2024 fire season district draft claims, the current estimated net claim total for fiscal year 25 claims is $134,759,308. $10 million was transferred for fire season 2024 emergency fire costs. Fiscal year 2025 expenditures totaled $13 million, which doesn't include the $167,032 for the payroll and operating costs. And expenditures, including the previous fiscal year reconciliations, totaled $13,593,992, leaving an ending fund balance of $9,749,577. That is the end of my report for fiscal year 25, unless there are any questions.
Any questions from committee members? And thank you for a thorough report as usual, Ms. Hobbs. Okay. Hearing and seeing none, let's move on to agenda item number 7, which is the status reports of the EFCC work groups. Just as a reminder, implementation of House Bill 3940 created a fair amount of work for this committee, and to help develop the rules and policies that are directed in statute to do, we've created several work groups and put them their progress on a iterative starting point. So to date, 2 work groups have begin meeting and working in partnership with ODF to develop some proposals that will be brought back to the committee to discuss and eventually make some decisions on. The two work groups that have met are the unencumbered balance work group and the disbursements work group. Can I ask for representatives from each of the work groups to just give the committee as a whole an update on what they've done?
Hey, Brendan, before we move forward, I think Nancy had something.
Oh, sorry.
Item 6.
Did I
No
skip?
problem. Yeah, just wanted to note, we missed agenda item number 6 for the current financial report of fiscal
Oh.
year 26. So I don't know if you want to do that or come back to it.
My apologies. We'll come back to that. Let's work on agenda item number 7 since though I don't have to redo my spiel and it's fresh. And then we'll touch on agenda item number 6. My apologies. Continuing with agenda item number 7, can we get a update from representatives from 2 of the committee members or from the 2 work group? Can we get an update from work group members that are on the 2 current work groups that are functioning?
Sure, Gerald, so I can give you an update on the disbursements work group.
Please.
I'll give you a chance to rest your vocal cords here as you're recovering from sickness. The disbursements work group met a couple of times, a significant amount of material to unpack out of that group. Our initial meetings were, I'd say, exceptionally productive. I want to thank Michael and his staff with Levi Hopkins and Ryan Miller from ODF for their instrumental support in getting up and running with this work group. I think the framework that we've established in those meetings has set a really good trajectory for where we want to go. I would say we're poised for pretty good progress here at our next meeting, and not a ton to report right now as we've just been establishing framework, but more development soon.
Thank you, Eric. John, I see your hand up. Are you?
Yeah, I can take it unless Bobby wants to in the room there. Hard to communicate through long distance there. But just real quick, Bobby and I met with staff and ODF representatives on the unencumbered balance. And we had one initial meeting in February, made good progress given the history of the topic and as it's related to the Oregon Forest Land Protection Fund. Had good discussion and had, I think, good alignment with the ODF leaders and the subject matter experts that we were working with. We're focused on determining the unencumbered balance at a time when we have accounting reports on the actual revenues and expenditures and trying to eliminate the use of estimates. So we have some initial thoughts, but more to come, more to report out on to full committee meeting later.
Excellent. Thanks, John. Bobby, anything to add?
Nope, I think John covered it.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that report. Good to see both work groups are moving forward. Okay, we'll close agenda item number 6 and return to we'll close agenda item number 7 and we will return to agenda item number 6. Clearly my mind is not functioning on high octane gasoline this morning. So, did I say that wrong again? I think I did. Anyways, let's start with agenda item number 6. Can I get an update on the financial status of the Oregon Forest Land Protection Fund?
Certainly. Again, Lorna Hobbs, EFCC Finance Coordinator. This report covers the status of the fund, or the Oregon Forest Land Protection Fund, for the current fiscal year, FY26, including actual revenues and expenditures through January 31st, 2026, and projected revenues and expenditures through the end of the fiscal year. I've updated the format of the report to reflect the changes that resulted from House Bill 3940. Starting with the beginning balance on July 1, 2025, it was $9,749,577. Item number 1 shows the estimated assessment revenue for FY26 at $13,632,512. These assessments reflect a 97% collection rate. Actual assessment revenues received as of January 31st equal $12,302,418. This amount includes some acreage assessment revenue that we received before November 1st, 2025, which was the effective date when those revenues no longer flowed into the fund. Moving on to item number 2, total harvest tax revenues for FY26 are estimated at $2,328,079, with $965,491 received as of January 31st. This includes the first 2 of 4 quarterly payments for the fiscal year. Item number 3 is $36,737 of interest from FY25 that was received after July 1. Total revenue from interest on the account for FY26 is estimated at $786,762 and $302,226 received as of January 31st. The interest rate at the beginning of the fiscal year was 4.6% and has since decreased to the current rate of 4.0%. Total estimated revenues for FY26 are $16,747,353, with $13,570,135 received as of January 31st. Total actual revenues received, including the interest from FY25, equals $13,606,872. Moving on to expenditures and transfers out of the fund for FY26. Number 1 is the transfer of the $165,000 for the FY25 payroll and operating expenses. And as I previously stated, I still need to transfer an additional $2,032 out of the fund to cover FY25 administrative costs. Item number 2 shows an estimate of $185,000 for fiscal year 2026 payroll and operating costs. Item number 3 is $13,632,512, which is the total of minimum and improved lot assessment revenue calculated at the 97% collection rate shown above that is available for transfer for fiscal year 2027 district budgets that the committee approved at its January 6th meeting. And item number 4 is the harvest tax revenue in the amount of $1,164,015 that is available for transfer for FY27 district budgets. This is the $332,968 remaining from the $13.5 million cap from FY25, plus $830,047 in revenue for quarters 3 and 4 of calendar year 2025. The fourth quarter payment of $350,713 was received in February. However, it was $130,600 less than the estimated amount presented to the committee in January. Adding the assessment revenue and harvest tax revenue brings the amount for transfer for fiscal year 2027 district budgets to $14,796,527. Total expenditures for fiscal year 26 are estimated at $14,981,527. Actual expenditures, including the transfer of FY25 operating expenses as of January 31st, total $165,000. The current fund balance as of January 31st, 2026 is $23,191,448 with an estimated ending balance on June 30th, 2026 of $11,515,403. That is the end of my report, unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Lorna. Any questions from committee members? I have one, noting the difference between what was estimated and what was actual for FY26. Is the primary driver of that the effective date for House Bill 3940 and revenues kind of getting split during that year? Is
You're
that
referring-
contributing to the difference?
Are you referring to the harvest tax revenue that was less than?
No, not necessarily the harvest tax. I do understand that one. More so the assessments received.
So this is Nancy Hirsch, Emergency Fire Cost Committee Administrator. I'll try to take that, Brennan. So I think most of the committee members know about 90% of the assessment revenues come in between November and February. So there still will be remaining revenues to follow all the way through June, and that should bridge that gap and typically does.
Understood. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from committee members? Okay,
Actually, I have one, Brennan.
Go ahead.
On the harvest tax, is that just kind of the long-term average? The estimate?
We actually get data from from ODF staff that they present as their projections. So
Okay,
those are the numbers I use.
okay, thank you.
Okay, hearing none, no further questions. Let's move on to agenda item number 8. The fiscal year 2025 audit report. Nancy, can you please provide an audit report and a recommendation?
Sure. Nancy Hirsch again, the Emergency Fire Cost Committee Administrator. Just a note, the report is coming to you slightly delayed. We typically do that in January, but because of the associated priority work with House Bill 3940, we're bringing it to you in March. The report, which is part of your meeting material, summarizes the findings of the EFCC's fiscal year 25 audits, essentially the 2024 fire season. Now I'll provide a brief overview of the report. Your staff conducted fiscal year 25 audits in coordination with the Department of Forestry area accountants and protection finance unit staff. Additional assistance was also provided from one district business manager. Additional attendees at the audits included EFCC members, district foresters and managers, office and business managers, as well as various unit foresters and other district staff employees. The audits were a hybrid of in-person and virtual attendance. During fiscal year 25, the total extra costs were estimated at $309,664,207. After reductions were made for district deductibles and all the fire cost recoveries, the total estimated claim to the Oregon Forest Land Protection Fund and General Fund is $129,013,931. The focus of each audit can be separated into 2 parts. First, all equipment and aircraft charges are reviewed for conformity to preset schedules and appropriateness. Secondly, fire line payroll records are reviewed and compared to the Oregon State payroll system. Official payroll records and fire line equipment records are reviewed and compared to ODF billing for equipment rentals for accuracy. All costs are reviewed for conformity to FEMA eligibility when applicable and fire cost recoveries. The statewide total for reversals of charges from emergency fire cost eligibility back to the district was, or back to districts, was $378,318. Reoccurring issues related to ineligible employees, unpaid helicopter deductibles, and missing documentation. An additional $382,272 in severity costs was also corrected from emergency fire to FEMA eligible costs. All districts except for North Cascade and West Oregon District had claims for fiscal year 25. All these audits were held during the spring of April and May of 2025. There were an additional 11 FEMA eligible fires during fire season 24 occurring in 4 districts. These fires were audited separately, led by ODF's FEMA coordinator. Essentially, they have to do a 100% audit on these FEMA fires. And so we did take a little different path that worked pretty effectively for this audit. These payroll and contracted resources were audited separately, and then EFCC staff participated in the payroll audits and performed separate audits of contracted resources. As far as the overall fire season, I thought that the districts, or that the Department of Forestry's Protection Division audit report summarized the 2024 fire season well, and just offered an excerpt from that report. So for 2024, with an early start to the peak season, multiple communities impacted, and 1.9 million acres burned across the state, 2024 fire season will go down as a record-breaking and memorable year. There were 1,003 fires on ODF protected lands, resulting in close to just over 314,000 acres burned. The ODF complex incident management teams were mobilized 11 times to wildfires during 2024. As a reminder, the incidents many of you will recall: Salt Creek, Larch Creek, Dixon Fire, Boneyard and Rock Fires, Battle Creek Complex, Lane 1, Shoe Fly, Fossil Complex that took 2 deployments, and then Winding Water, and lastly, the Winding Water Complex. Statewide, regardless of jurisdiction, there were almost 2,000 fires that burned almost 2 million acres. Due to the agency's aggressive approach to initial attack to preserve natural resources, protect communities, and increase firefighter safety, many fire starts that happened this year were never heard about. Overall, the department put out 93% of fires on ODF protected lands at 10 acres or fewer during that year. That kind of success only happens due to the unique nature of Oregon's complete and coordinated fire protection system. While obviously a costly fire season, the adherence to fiscal responsibility was proven by all those involved with tracking the finances. Kudos to all the staff involved with the finances from stem to stern. The audit was really successful, and I think many of the Emergency Fire Cost Committee members that were able to attend those audits saw the due diligence and the professionalism across all districts and the associations. Lastly, as a part of the audits, we also had the operational breakout discussions to talk about successful fire stops, status of strategic investment projects, and human caused fires. On pages 6 through 12, there are several fires highlighted, and I would encourage everyone to take the time to review these. Fire season 24 was resource poor in most cases, and even with that, due to the unique statewide complete and coordinated system, there were successes all over the map that didn't make the newspaper headlines. I'm not going to dive into any of those examples as I have in the past. There's a lot of weight carried from this particular fire season, and rather than bring back some of those successes, I'll leave it to you to read at your leisure. Pursuant to this, so my last thing is the actual recommendation. So pursuant to Oregon Administrative Rule 629-165-0310, which was in effect during fiscal year 25, I recommend the Emergency Fire Cost Committee approve these audits of fires that burned in fiscal year 25. In the report, unless you have questions.
Questions from committee members? Thank you for the report, Nancy. Can I get a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 audit report?
I'll
This is
move.
Catherine.
Oh, go ahead.
This is Catherine. I move to accept the fiscal year 2025 audit report as presented.
Thank you, Catherine. A second?
I'll second.
Excellent, John. All those in favor of approving the fiscal year 2025 audit report, please reply with aye.
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 Aye. Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Before we close that topic, Nancy, I do want to extend my gratitude to you and the staff who complete these very thorough and very valuable audit reports. I think in terms of the public-private partnership that this committee provides with ODF, the work is excellent and extremely valuable to ensuring that public dollars are used for really, really good outcomes. I also always appreciate the great saves that never make the news and those reports, because it is often forgotten in the public's eye, not in often the landowners or the locals' eyes. Some of the really challenging conditions that our ODF firefighting staff and the association's firefighting staff faced, especially in 2025, and the successes that they had on some just key clutches that arguably could have made the news. And when they make the news, it costs a lot of money and puts a lot of people at risk, and creates a lot of habitat damage. So I appreciate all those out there that were a part of those great saves and the continued work you guys do, despite some very challenging seasons that we face. So thank you. Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 9. The agency and administrative branch reports. I'll hand it over to ODF staff, and you can arm wrestle for who goes first.
Thanks, Chair Gerald. Tracy Wilson, I'm Protection Finance Unit Manager for Oregon Department of Forestry, and I will be reporting on behalf of James Short, CFO for ODF. He is off on a mission downtown today. So he did send me 5 points here to walk through, so I will read his comments here for the group. So agency financials, so cash position stabilized post-fire season. As of late February, the forestry cash account balance is approximately 41.6 million, with 8.9 million remaining in the protection general fund appropriation. With most fire season costs paid and county revenues received, cash flow is stabilized as the agency transitions from winter to spring operations and prepares for its upcoming fire season. Accounts payable are trending down and vendor aging steadying. Department-wide expenditures have decreased following peak fire activity. Vendor accounts are averaging close to 45 days to make payment, and reflecting continued prioritization of timely payments while managing post-season reconciliation. Strong invoicing activity, fire cost reconciliation going on. So in Q3 of FY26, ODF invoiced 31.2 million and collected 38.2 million. Outstanding fire-related estimated assets total roughly $129 million, with liabilities of about $35 million. Reflecting in those numbers, ongoing cost share reconciliations for federal partners and cooperative agreements being built out. FEMA reimbursements continue. As usual, a multi-year timeline when it comes to FEMA, and Nancy alluded to that in her conversation also. Outstanding FEMA, FMAG, and public assistance balances total approximately $92.4 million. The agency is on pace to submit all the remaining 2024 fire season claims by the end of February 2026. But with the DHS shutdown, we are unable to submit claims that are ready to go. Our work is all prepped, ready to be input in the systems, and we're just waiting for them to reopen the websites for us to accomplish that. Again, reimbursements for FEMA continue to be a multi-year process requiring audit and compliance review before final payment. Last topic from James, 2025 fire season financial impact managed through legislative action, House Bill 5204. The 2025 fire season generated $129.9 million in gross suppression costs, $57.3 million in net costs, $12.2 million in severity, $73.6 million other funds spending limitation, and then an additional $11.6 million of centralized administrative general fund costs, House Bill 3940. End of my report in coordination with James Short's report. And if there's any questions, I can attempt to answer, or we can forward on information to James. Back to you, Chair Geralt.
Thank you, Tracy. Any questions from committee members? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Curran, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Gereltz. So for the record, Michael Curran, I'm the Fire Protection Division Chief with ODF. Kind of a brief legislative update. Interesting year headed into the short session through multiple revenue forecasts. Kind of a doom and gloom initially right out the gate. Kind of twofold, lower than expected revenues coming into the state, but also with some of the federal policy changes being made. It had impacts to the state budget as well. In subsequent revenue forecasts, the revenue forecast has gotten slightly better, albeit still showing a slight reduction in terms of overall revenue coming in. The good news is agencies were told to start planning for some reductions. Some of that is starting to get scaled back slightly. We don't know what the final impact will be, but things aren't seeming as bad as they were originally going into the short session, which is good news for us going in. And as a reminder, what we had initially listed and identified for reductions for ODF was $2 million of the $4 million we had available for installation of new cameras, detection cameras, and then also $6 million of our LRP funds that we had identified for this coming biennium. So with that, the part of the federal tax policy changes that have made, still looking at deficit statewide. There is a bill, Senate Bill 1507, that would actually disconnect some of the state's tax mechanisms from those federal policy changes, which will actually help us out in the tune of around close to $300 million of additional revenue, which would be good. Again, still an overall deficit, but the overall picture looking better. We'll know more at the end of session here. I think Saturday or Sunday is sine die, and our budget reconciliation bill is actually this morning, hence why Kyle or James aren't able to attend today. So more to come on that. The Tracy did steal my thunder on House Bill 5204. That is the bill that contained all the pre-session asks that ODF brought to the legislature. Again, we've had all the necessary discussions we need to have. We're just now in a wait and see mode to see if we actually get that. And one of the big ones for me for that one is obviously our large fire request and our severity request, but the $11.6 million that we needed to fully fund House Bill 3940 to get those centralized administrative services to completely have general fund cover it. Again, hearing good things downtown. And now we're just in that wait and see mode to see if we actually get it or not. I will hand it over to Ryan Miller here briefly. He's going to talk about two bills that we've been tracking within the Protection Division, House Bill 4121 and Senate Bill 1540. So Ryan, if you want to take those real quick, and then we can be done with this one.
Yep, I'll try to make this really quick. So appreciate that handoff, Michael. As he mentioned, 1540, we've been tracking that one pretty close. For those that have been or have not been tracking, excuse me, the bill essentially was going to require that OSFM, in coordination with ODF, would establish a public-facing database to collect mitigation efforts from the public. The intent there was landowners could submit work they've done and completed. That work then would need to be considered by DCBS and potentially insurers, where rate reductions could be allowed based on activities on the ground. So I'm paraphrasing a lot. Please don't quote it, but simply put, it was a way to track kind of another attempt at providing credit to homeowners for doing good work on the ground. As of even as recently as yesterday, there was a public hearing held. It seemed that there was enough concerns, and maybe things weren't well thought out enough, that this needed to be potentially delayed until the long session. And so it seems like there's no work session scheduled for this bill. It seems like where this has landed is that all parties are kind of agreeing that we need to work on this concept more deliberately and in more depth before moving forward about trying to put requirements on insurance companies, putting requirements on DCBS to validate hazard rating models, so forth. We've been down those paths before, and we know the complications involved there. So as of now, I'm not seeing that 1540 probably moves forward. But again, don't quote me. It's just it's the way it's looking to be playing out. So there will be a lot of long session talk on the same subject, though. So 4121, as folks may have known, is also known as the Spartacus bill. Last night, an amendment was dropped that dramatically reduced the excuse me, I'm getting over this bug. Dramatically changed the bill, kind of removing most of that Spartacus language, a lot of the other stuff, a lot of the emergency preparedness functions that were in there. Again, it's brand new. It received a work session this morning in the subcommittee of Ways and Means, and is set for a full Ways and Means work session this afternoon at 3. It does appear to have support as it's currently laid out in the new amendment. No big concerns from ODF. Largely, it would establish an emergency management recovery authority. So I think they're calling it the Oregon Disaster Recovery Authority. It's another board appointed by the governor. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. No big watchouts for ODF. I think we want to be involved. We want to be part of it. It's something to keep our fingers on the pulse of. But that will be, those are the two that we're watching right now. And I'll take any questions if there's any.
Thank you, Ryan. Any questions from committee members? Okay, hearing none. I'll hand it back to you, Michael, and if you have anything else on this, but you're also free to move to the agenda item, which is a Protection Division, to the next agenda item, number 10, which is a Protection Division report.
Okay. Did you want us to, I can touch briefly on the strategic investment requests. there is an updated information in the handouts that Nancy provided. We do know that some progress has been made on these projects, so we'll be getting an update out via email to the committee once we receive all those and have more information. So just know that'll be coming here shortly once the meeting concludes. So
Thank you.
Then switching over to the Protection Division report. So first one on there is our large wildfire fund eligibility standards. So we've been working hard over the last 6 months, Tracy and his shop, in coordination with the Protection Division, on updating the large wildfire fund eligibility requirements. And really what we did was take the good work that this group did with the updated EFCC eligibility requirements from last year and really just expand onto those. After getting a thorough review from our field folks that'll be interacting with these on a daily basis moving forward, we did get those finalized at the beginning of this year and have those codified. So those are in place, which is good. Really what we're doing with these is really just expanding on what the EFCC had and truly making it to where everything that is a suppression related cost is large fire fund eligible, and anything that's a readiness cost goes back to the district. So we're truly going to have that readiness versus suppression budget moving forward, which is really going to help us in making sure that we're accurately estimating what funding we need and everything's hitting the right bucket. So pretty excited with where we're headed with these. And working with Tracy, these will be an annual review that we'll have in place every year just to make sure that we're still hitting the mark with the new large fire fund eligibility requirements. And we'll try to find ways for EFCC to engage on that and what that looks like, as well as our districts as well. But we did get those completed at the first of the year, and we'll see how everything shakes out. We essentially had them in place to a point last summer, and everything worked fairly well for the most part, which was good. But really just expanded more on that going into this year. So any questions or thoughts or concerns on that topic?
I'll open it up to committee members. Seeing none, Michael, I appreciate that, and the recognition, the partnership that exists between EFCC and ODF, driven through statute on our engagement in large fire costs, and continue to develop that partnership as we look at large fire costs annually.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you. Anything else on, do you still have more topics under the Protection Division report?
Yep, we got a couple more on there between the BLM agreement and GEO board. I can touch on those briefly too.
Excellent. Carry on, please.
All right, so our BLM WOOP agreement. So folks remember the last WOOP agreement that we signed was essentially a 2-year agreement with the option to extend it annually for up to a total of 5 years. We've met the original 2 years, or we will be meeting the original 2 years, June 30th of 2026. So we did our annual fire season AAR with the fire leadership within Western Oregon. And then from there, we did our annual BLM ODF leadership meeting based off what was in the AAR. We have a commitment from the BLM so far that the plan will be to extend it for 1 more year. There's some nuances though in who's actually going to hold that agreement with the creation of the U.S. Wildland Fire Service. If that transitions over to them or if the BLM keeps it. More than likely, it will stay with the BLM for this 1-year agreement since the U.S. Wildland Fire Service is really just getting their feet under them this year. So BLM leadership right now is currently working through what that means. And we'll be working on getting essentially an amendment signed that extends it for 1 year going into this next fire season. Beyond this next year, still TBD. Still more discussions we got to have with the BLM and/or Wildland Fire Service on what it looks like moving forward. And we'll continue to have those conversations, but at least as it stands right now, we have a commitment from the BLM to extend it for 1 more year. So, any questions on that one?
Nope, hearing none, please continue.
Okay. And then a geo board update. We're kind of in a transition period with the geo board. A lot of really good work from that group went into creating a succession management plan for our incident management teams. And now as a division, we'll be taking that and keeping that current moving forward. So we know we have a clear succession management plan for all of our critical positions on our IMTs, especially within our CNG. So a lot of really good work with that work product. And at the same time, we also put together an IMT policy and manual for how our IMTs should be operating. And now we're just trying to kind of figure out what the geo board's role will be within that policy and kind of what those next big projects will be for the geo board to focus on. So we'll be working on that this year on kind of what that role of the geo board looks like now moving forward, given with our IMT policy and manual that really outlines everything from how we recruit to how we fill team positions to process and procedure for our teams. So it really runs the gamut there. So more to come on the geo board. Like I said, we're kind of in flux right now with what that group will be focusing on since we just finished the succession management plan. So now it'll just be how that group will interact now with our IMT policy and manual and what the needs are there. So still a ton of value to have that group together. Now we just need to kind of get consensus on what the next work product should be from that group and what'll be valuable for us.
Thank you, Michael. That's a important process and product from ODF. And I appreciate you keeping the forward-thinking eye on how to not fall behind and stay ahead.
Yep. Yeah, it's super critical for us to maintain our 3 IMTs, and it's just becoming harder and harder moving forward. So we're really having to try to get creative the best we can to keep those 3 teams in place. And this succession management plan will help us get there. So
I think many of us on the committee recognize the vital importance that the ODF teams bring and the success that they bring with them relative to other team engagements that collectively we've all experienced. So I appreciate the focus and the continued focus. Thank you.
Anytime. And I think that's it for the Protection Division report up.
Any final comments or questions for Michael before we close this agenda item?
And I think maybe one last thing, Brennan, I probably should have mentioned earlier. Most folks are probably tracking this, but Casey did start this week. Yesterday was her first day with the agency. And we'll try to get her engaged with this group as soon as possible. Just given it's her second day today, there's obviously a lot of things on her plate to get up to speed with everything and have a good handoff there between Kate and Casey. But it is a priority for us to make sure we can get her to attend one of these meetings to interact with you all and meet you all. But yeah, I'd be remiss not to highlight that she did get started yesterday. And again, we'll try to make it a priority to get in front of you all as soon as we can.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, with that, let's close agenda item number 10. We will move to agenda item number 11, the administrator report. But before I hand the floor over to Nancy, I do want to note that the agenda item number 12 is public comment. So if there is any public in this meeting that wishes to make a comment, please prepare yourself to do so. You can raise your hand now or put a comment in the chat and we'll address it once we conclude with this agenda item. So Nancy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nancy Hirsch, Emergency Fire Cost Committee Administrator. You've already heard this morning on a couple status reports from the 2 work groups that are already underway, and I just wanted to touch base with the remaining work groups. They include the reviewing large fire costs, the reviewing district budgets, and then the overall administration of the Oregon Forest Land Protection Fund. And so for Catherine and Bobby, basically we're kind of stepping out all of these committees so they're not all functioning at the same time. But I will be in touch very soon to get something on the books in April for the reviewing large fire costs. And then John and Eric, it'll be the same for you, hoping to meet also in probably by late April to start the conversations related to reviewing the district budgets. And that will leave the remaining work group that I think will keep on hold at least till maybe Brennan's feeling better. For anybody that's not engaged with the work group yet, remember these are collaborative work groups with ODF leadership and staff subject matter expertise. And the initial meeting will really kind of give you a grounding on some of the foundational background information, and then begin to roll up our sleeves and continue this work throughout the summer. So that's all I've got, Brennan, in a report.
Thank you.
Maybe I should note, we did have Kyle Williams just join. He says hello. I think they're back from downtown.
Excellent. Okay, with that, any questions or comments from committee members on that agenda item? Okay, before we move to agenda item number 12, I'd be remiss, though I can't see Mr. Williams, to offer him an opportunity if he has anything he wishes to bring forward to the committee. He can decline as well.
I very nearly did because I'm trying to choke down some breakfast here, Brennan. But for the record here, Kyle Williams, Deputy Director of Fire Operations. The main thing is just thank you for the continuing work on the new rules, the new engagement. There is a lot. And Brennan and I, you know, I've been watching the committee for a long, long time, and I think this is the most work that the committee has had to do as individuals. Appreciate you guys as volunteers. Rolling up your sleeves and really being thoughtful on behalf of all Oregonians and the system as you guys plow through what's ahead of you here, and some really thoughtful engagement and just appreciation for that effort. I just came back from the Ways and Means Subcommittee and Capital Construction. We're doing our part on our side to make sure that the agency has the resources needed to be able to keep up our side of the effort. And as so far as it's still got the final Ways and Means Committee hearing this afternoon related to your work, the 3940 centralized administrative costs are in the final reconciliation bill still. So that is good. Keeps everything else that you've built on the rails, and we'll look forward to the final gavel dropping. But as of now, that's the good news. So I think that's it, Brennan, off the top of my head here.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay, let's close agenda item number 11 and move on to our final agenda item, the public comment. Now, does anyone have a public comment or not seeing any raised hands, and the chat appears empty. So with that, if members concur, we'll adjourn the meeting at 11:18 on March 3rd. Thank you for your time, and thank you to ODF staff for a thorough report, as well as our two EFCC, our administrator and our auditor. Thank you very much for your support. Have a good day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.